It may be our shortest month of the year, but February had no shortage of high-quality TV entertainment. So as we prepare to say farewell to Feb, we thought we'd count down our 5 favorite premieres of the month. Are you all ready for this?
Never been more ready.
Yep, so ready.
Perfect. Let's kick things off with number 5. It is the brand new Apple TV Plus sci-fi dramedy Hello Tomorrow. Set in a retro futuristic world, the series stars Billy Crudup as a charismatic salesman who hawks the American dream by selling timeshares on the moon. And why do I like this series? I think it's always exciting to find something fresh in the sci-fi realm. I know sci-fi prides itself on being innovative, but sometimes it's a lot of the same. And I find this sort of Pleasantville meets Twilight Zone vibe really appealing. And every episode is 30 minutes, and we love a quick binge around these parts. So what could be better than that? I have nothing more to add here. I don't know if either of you do, but
I mean, you said it all. It looks beautiful. I am also like super into the retroness, and I love that you referenced Pleasantville because it's one of my favorite movies. But yeah, and I can watch this with my husband, who's a sci-fi fanatic, and we both get what we want out of this.
It's a mid-century modern dream out here in 30-minute buckets. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I love the buckets.
Number 4 on the list is the HGTV series, The Nate and Jeremiah Home Project, which returned for a second season just last week. The show follows married interior designers Nate Berkus and Jeremiah Brent as they help families declutter their lives and upgrade their homes. Scott, Audrey, why do we love this show?
Ooh,
so many reasons.
So many reasons. Do you want to go first, Audrey, or do you want me to go?
You can go. I'll follow up. I'll back clean up.
All right. I love that. See, it's a cleaning, home project show. See what she did there? Double layers. We love this. Yes, Nate and Jeremiah are like the handsomest design duo. And plus their kids, Poppy and Oscar, are absolutely adorable. So you get a little glimpse into their life with this show. But I think one of the things that I really like about this show is that they sort keepsakes versus clutter, and then sort of build their design around what the owners sort of deem as sentimental. So everything that they're doing is kind of very, I guess, honed in on the house, the people who own the house. And so it's not just them coming in and completely revamping everything and making it completely other than what they would normally have in their house. So yeah, a little sentimentality with your design. So I'm here for that.
I agree. That's what I think makes it so special too. And they really push people to elevate those keepsakes instead of just having them in a box or keeping them in a closet because you just can't bear to part with them. They figure out ways to reframe them. If it's a piece of art in an antique frame and then hang it in a place where you'll see it every day and just, put those things front and center because that's what makes a house a home. And it's really special.
Yeah.
And they're just adorable. And Jar, as we call him because we're friends with him, is so sweet and cries every single episode. He's emotionally invested in these families and making their home life functional and beautiful and special to them. It's just very nice to see. He's very genuine, and I feel you don't see that a lot. A lot of these home shows, you can kind of tell people are putting it on for the camera, and maybe there's a little bit of that, but I honestly believe he cares so deeply and loves what he does, and it's just very nice to watch.
Yeah, I want to lean into one thing here, David, just because I know that you're a keepsakes kind of guy. What is one thing or one sentimental piece in your house that you would just could not part with, or you would put front and center in a design?
Oh my God! I mean,
one, David, one.
So many.
I know, that's kind of why I wanted to put you in this situation, because Nate and Jeremiah aren't going to allow you to have all of your pieces. You can only pick a couple.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, one that's very special to me is that as I was growing up, I very much wanted a replica WWE title belt, a real title belt like they actually held. When I graduated from college, I got one as a gift, and then had it autographed by my childhood hero, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. And he is the only one who has autographed that belt and will autograph that belt, and it hangs in my house. But I feel like they would find a nice way to showcase that in sort of a front and center way. And I would love to see what they do with that.
That's awesome. Great answer, David.
Thanks.
Perfect.
Didn't even practice that one. Well, that is awesome. And I might actually watch this one. It's got like Marie Kondo vibes, but with a little touch of Reno.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Number 3 on the list is a personal favorite of mine, and we've talked about it here on the show. It is the Prime Video steampunk fantasy series, Carnival Row. The series is set in a world where mythological creatures have been forced to coexist with humans after being driven from their homeland by war. Carnival Row primarily focuses on a sympathetic police inspector played by Orlando Bloom and a rebellious fairy played by Cara Delevingne. Cara Delevingne? Who the hell knows? But the series also features subplots that skillfully and effectively weave social commentary around immigration, interracial relationships, and wealth inequality throughout the show, which I really appreciate and think is actually pretty well done. Scott, I know you have watched the new season. What do you think?
You know, I'm not a huge Cara fan. I'm glad she sorted her hair out a little bit for this season. I just couldn't handle. I get it. You're a pixie, but do we really need to do a pixie cut? It feels like a little on the nose. But you know, I think it's a fantastic show. I think the storyline that's kind of hidden within this is the most interesting part about it. The race relations and how all of that works within the, you know, the fairies and all of the other, I can't remember what they call them in the show.
The pucks?
The pucks, yeah. So it's just all of that is a really fascinating layer. And I'm a fan. Sign me up. So Audrey, have you watched this at all?
I have not watched season 2 yet. I watched the first season.
Okay.
So I am behind.
But this is
What are you waiting for? A carnival to come to town, huh?
love a carnival.
This is the final season. They had started to film season 2 when the pandemic hit, and they took a long break. And I think everyone's careers sort of moved on, so they figured they'd cut this one short. But I actually think it'll benefit from not being something that's 5 seasons long and decreases in quality. I feel like we can get a really solid finale out of 2 seasons.
100% agree there.
Yeah.
What are we at? 3. So now number 2 is the Netflix thriller You, which is currently in the middle of its 4th season. The series stars Penn Badgley as love-struck stalker who just can't seem to stop repeating the same obsessive and violent patterns over and over again. Huh. What are we going to do?
Therapy. That's what
Audrey,
we need to do.
I think you are a fan of this show, correct?
I am a huge fan of the show. I am also a huge fan of just Penn Badgley, who plays Joe Goldberg in general. And yeah, the show is like very dark, very twisty. This season, he goes abroad in search of one of his obsessions, and then, spoiler alert, discovers new obsessions and new people to possibly murder. But there has been teases that a familiar face may return who we thought was gone. So fans will love that. And I mentioned, I just love Penn Badgley from Gossip Girl. Obviously, I feel like I've sung the praises of Gossip Girl many times, but he also has a new podcast, well, somewhat new, that I've been listening to. And he's been on a bunch of podcasts recently promoting You, obviously. And he's just, again, very much like Jeremiah Brent, like very sincere, very smart, and like thoughtful, just so intelligent. And the most interesting thing I thought was, leading up to filming this new season, he actually asked like the Netflix producers if he could not do any intimacy scenes for this season. And in past seasons, like there are like some like sex scenes, but he thought it was really important for his marriage. He's married to Domino Kirk, Jemima Kirk's sister, that fidelity was very important to him, and it felt like an infidelity. And he said, listen, I'll do the show, but I don't want to like compromise my values, which I thought was like a very brave and interesting and bold and commendable thing in Hollywood.
That's wild. I've never heard of that before.
I imagine it's going to be very difficult as an actor to avoid something like that. But yeah,
I don't know. I think again, I've listened to a lot of interviews with him, and he almost quit acting like many times. He's also a musician. He's very intellectual. So I think he kind of is just like, I don't need to do this. Like, it's not my only passion. And if people aren't going to respect what my boundaries are, then maybe I don't have to. I'm just assuming that's his way of thinking about it. But it's just like an interesting fact. So you won't see as much racy content in this season, but it's still just as good. So good for them.
Just goes to show you don't need sex doesn't always sell.
Exactly.
Murder
sells.
I actually did get a chance to interview Penn many years ago for a biopic about Jeff Buckley that he did. I cannot remember what it's called, but Jeff Buckley is in the title. Highly recommend it. And was so struck by exactly what you're saying. Not only is he very smart and thoughtful and sincere, but at the same time somehow very down to earth and just normal. It's sincerity and intelligence, but not in a way that talks down to you or is too cool for the room. And I was so impressed because for someone who had success at such a young age, I mean, we've seen what that does to so many actors, but he was just a cool dude. And on top of that, he loves music. He has a passion for music. I think that's one of the things he would probably maybe explore if he wasn't an actor. But it was just one of the most pleasant and casual, interesting conversations I can remember ever having with an actor.
Yay, Team Penn.
Yay. And finally, our pick for the #1 premiere, the best of February, is the long-awaited return of the Starz sitcom Party Down. If you are not familiar with Party Down, this series originally starred Adam Scott, Ken Marino, and Lizzie Kaplan, among others, as struggling actors in Hollywood, trying to make ends meet by working gigs for the Party Down catering service. The show, which was co-created by Paul Rudd and Veronica Mars creator Rob Thomas, not of Matchbox 20 fame, first aired for 2 seasons back in 2009. Why did I say it like that? And 2010, nearly 14 years ago, but was canceled despite rave critical reviews and a cult fan following. However, the show is finally back on Starz for a brand new season just a few days ago. And for our very own critical review, I will turn to you, Scott.
Yes, I loved this show. A friend of mine, actually a mutual friend of me and Audrey's, introduced me to this show, and I instantly fell in love with it. If you've ever worked in service, it just hits home so very hard. But yeah, coming into this, it's had a long time off. It was basically like picking up with an old friend that you haven't seen in a while, but when you see them, it's sort of like no time has passed at all. So very much that. And honestly, I can't think of a show that is better formatted to be able to capitalize on having a 13-year gap between seasons. Can you imagine 13 years? It's just, there's so much material there within that time. And for cater waiters, all of the stuff that they could have potentially have done, in a 13-year span is just incredible. So to have them all together in the same room again and to see how their lives are going, whether they've improved or not improved, is part of the comedy in and of itself. And the cast alone is just absolutely phenomenal. They're also funny, and you can tell that everyone involved in this really, really enjoys being a part of it, and they just play off of each other so well. So I just, can't get enough of it. The comedy is just absolutely genius. Kind of makes you wonder how much of it is actually scripted versus ad lib. But no idea. I was supposed to interview them, but I got sick, so I couldn't actually do it. But so it was a little bit disappointing. So I didn't get to ask them about that. But yeah. Now, Audrey, I know you mentioned that one cast member in particular was pretty upset that they weren't able to return. Is that correct?
Yes. In my podcast journeys, guys, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I was listening to, I think it was Fresh Air, an NPR podcast with Lizzie Kaplan, and she was absolutely devastated that she could not be a regular on this new return season. She was filming, The Trouble with Fleischman. Something's Up with Fleischman. I feel like we can never get the name of the show right.
Fleischman's in Trouble.
Fleischman's in Trouble, yes. Which I actually really enjoyed, and I should know the name of. She was filming that in New York. Party Down was filming in LA. It was during COVID, and she had a newborn baby, and there was logistically, her manager just couldn't make it work for her. But she described working on this set as like basically a summer camp, like the most fun experience you could have, just like being with all of your friends all the time and just letting loose. And yeah.
And no spoilers, but she does make an appearance in the show very early on, but not in the way that you would think. So something to look forward to if you're a Lizzie Kaplan fan. But there's tons of cameos in this as well. So a lot of familiar faces. I don't want to spoil it because it is part of the fun of watching it, but something to look out for.
We do see some of them in this clip.
Oh, spoilers. You should have said something. Also, see, forgot to mention at the top of the whole session here that today's secret word is podcast. So if you hear that, do a shot.
Take a sip of your cold brew and join us.
Exactly.
Well, you can check out all 5 of the shows we just talked about and more of our TV and movie recommendations by saying what to watch into your voice remote.